Good evening, Mayor Robertson, Council. Um, actually, it's humbling for us to be here tonight on a special night. So I'm glad you took that break because I was feeling bad that everyone was going to have to roll into my presentation and then be stuck here. At least some got to leave, because I know you probably have some dinners and things you'd like to get to and share with your family. It's an important night. But I do want to especially thank your city staff, Ms. Gallivan, Ms. Moreno, and of course Chiefs Garner, Chief Peterson, and Mr. Kirchner. Without such tremendous staff, we couldn't do our work. And our firm, we consider ourselves an extension of your staff and trying to implement the goals and priorities that you as a council have and want to do for your residents. So it's a pleasure for us to be here, provide just a quarterly update. Let me jump into it. There we go. I don't think my remote's working. That's okay. We're just going to introduction, going to talk about some of the current activities and some of the things down the road and a few next steps. So I'll let you go to the next one. Been working with Chief Garner. This was something I thought we may have wrapped up when we were here in September and discussing it. But in the U.S. Department of Justice's infinite wisdom, they have other documents they want and other information they want from us. So our federal team has been working with the chief to complete these and get some information back to them. Some of it was information they had in documents we had submitted. So working to finalize all of that. Same with the active transportation program. So this was the program. There is a state component and then there is a regional component. The state component we applied at the end of July. The state is about to make recommendations. They should do it before Christmas. We're expecting it in the next week or so. The state component is very competitive. They had about 400 million available in this round. Everyone was really excited. They received $2.2 billion in applications in requests for funding. So it's actually going to turn out that even with the increased funding they have in this program from Senate Bill 1, that they're going to be able to fund a lower percentage of applications than they did in previous cycles. It's ironic, but we're looking forward. We submitted final documentation to Fresno COG at the end of October. We've done well in the past for the city in the regional pot of funds, in part because it's a smaller pool of applicants, but also because Fresno COG knows more of their community's priorities and which ones they'd like to fund. So there is less money in it, but it's a smaller pool. After the state makes its recommendations this month and then adopts those in January, that's when the regional agencies such as Fresno COG go through what wasn't funded and decide what they'd like to fund with their pot of funds. So the next slide, please. Also this fall, worked with Chief Peterson and our federal team, actually worked on an application to FEMA for their assistance to firefighters grants. And there was a little bit of a learning curve because we had to get some base information set up with FEMA, who does their own website. But I think we had a big request. We had $684,000 that we were requesting from the federal government for breathing apparatus that firefighters use. So it was a big request, but I think we did well looking at it from a regional perspective. And the city partnered with North Central Fire Protection District. So we had a larger regional effort that we submitted for. FEMA tends to take a little bit of time to review and decide what they're going to fund, but we are looking at probably mid-spring when they will start rolling out. And they do it weird. They do it every week. They roll out some awards, and they do it for about 2 months. Every week, roll out more and more awards. So we'll see how we do with that. And then right now, working with Chief Garner on an opportunity shared from the California Department of Public Health related to tobacco enforcement training. So we are looking at a program to do training for officers as well as sort of enforcement operations, sometimes call them sting operations, and then education for youth on tobacco usage. And that's one that's due actually next Friday. So next slide. So quickly, I know I talked about this at my last update. Proposition 68 on the June ballot, $4 billion for parks and water funding. Next slide. What we've been working on out of this program, the first one out of the gate is called the Cultural, Community, and Natural Resources Program. They also call it the kitchen sink because it has several different project categories. There's about $37.5 million in this program. Mr. Kirchner and I attended the workshop that was held in Madera. Very exciting day. held a Madero. We got to talk to agency staff about some of our projects. One of the potential ones we looked at was our risers for the theater. We're also talking about potentially a couple others. The way they are doing this program, the Resources Agency has a concept proposal, which is intended to be sort of a mini application so that you don't have to go through the practice of a large application before they'll give you the up or down on whether you can submit a full application. Still, those concept proposals are lengthy. They're very thorough. We're anticipating those to be due in February, so we're working on one, potentially two applications for that program. And then the next one coming up is from the Department of Parks and Recreation, which is the statewide parks program round 3. They funded rounds 1 and 2 previously from Prop 84. We're looking at a due date in May. We're currently participating. They're starting the workshops as they develop the draft guidelines for this program. But this is one where you're looking at larger, transformative, innovative projects, and this is one we've talked about, the Rockwell Pond, where you can have a larger dollar amount ask, and it tends to be more transformative for the community. If I get the next slide.
Richard, could I interrupt you for just
Of
a
course.
second? So the Cultural Community and Natural Resource Grant Program on slide 6, is that being funded right now? Is it still being funded, or is it in abeyance right now, or?
Nope. It is a brand new program from Proposition 68. So it's about 40 million that was in the proposition, and they fund things like science centers, cultural activities, community activities. There's, I think, 5 different subcategories. So it's a little bit different because there's no cap on how much you can ask for. There's no set guidelines on how much money for each of the different subcategories they'll award. So that's why we called it the kitchen sink, because it's kind of like they've thrown a lot of different things into it. So there's a lot of unknowns. We've talked about looking at maybe smaller requests, such as riser infrastructure for a theater, for example, that can fit in nicely, because we think there's going to be some large requests from some of the state science centers and other applicants.
What are the risers exactly? Are we talking pipes, or are we talking?
So right now, as I understand it, the floor is flat, and so when viewing things on stage, it's often hard for folks in the rear to see. So I don't know the exact infrastructure of those risers, but it would allow for some scaled seating, allowing for better visibility from the back of the theater.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So housing-related funding, you'll notice on the November 6th ballot, there was a couple of housing propositions. One was Proposition 1. So we've been following these. Most of Proposition 1 is funding programs already established at the State Housing Community Development that have been without funds in previous years. One of them, Mr. Kircher and I have talked about, is the Housing-Related Parks Program as an example, which is will fund parks activities based on permits pulled for new housing, and they basically not had funds in recent years. So Proposition 1 really funds, multifamily, affordable housing type programs. In addition to Proposition 1, Senate Bill 2 that was approved by the legislature a little over a year ago is starting off with a planning grant program. And this is one, they are starting the workshops on the guidelines, because we would like to pursue funding to look at some of our plans in the city, as well as possible zoning ordinances. The goal is to accelerate housing production, so outdated plans and things like that will be eligible. And we're looking at that probably in April as a due date. And next slide. And then, of course, cap and trade is something we've talked about in the past. The reason I bring it back is over the past few years with Governor Brown and the existing legislature, Governor Brown has set sort of a priority and a list of programs that are funded from cap and trade. We are expecting with Governor-elect Newsom and the new supermajority in the legislature that they're going to be making changes, and changes could involve high-speed rail, gets a significant percentage of cap and trade funds. So there could be opportunities to fund other programs. We see the new governor probably taking a different tact and maybe doing some different programs. So we'll be following closely to see what they'll be proposing and how they could impact the city. We will be going out this spring with what they call urban greening programs. There'll be urban greening, and these are energy efficiency, greening of public buildings, roadways, things like that. There'll be cap and trade funds for that, as well as some Proposition 68 funds for that.
Are most of these matching type of grants, or are they one-for-one grants?
Most of these are matching, not all of them though, although leveraging of funds is always a competitive advantage. So it depends on the program. Some of them do not, no longer require a match. However, if you do contribute a match to your request, you can score additional points and be more competitive. So we take a look at each one, and if there's, for example, a required match, then it's a required match. Like on the FEMA grant, it was, I believe, 10%, so it's a 10% match that we have to commit to.
Yeah.
On others, it's more of a strategic determination and what the city may have available.
On most of those grants, does the city put something up, want to put something up to match, to make it, I mean, does it really help consideration? Does it add enough points to make the difference sometimes?
It
To put
does.
something on?
It does. Next steps, and then I can be happy to answer even some more questions. So in January, the League of Cities is doing their new mayors and council members events around the 16th through the 18th of January. So if the new council members or new mayor would like to, are in Sacramento, it'd be great to get together, meet some more of the team. What we often like to do is leverage that time in Sacramento and do meetings with agencies. So some of the agencies we may be applying to, such as Department of Parks and Recreation or Natural Resources, is to go by and visit with them, talk about our projects, and these are things we would brief you to make sure you had all the details of what we were proposing. But they do like to see your face, and that's just a good opportunity because as new council members, you often attend that. Looking forward to touching base with the council on the priorities, as you discussed. Probably next meeting we'll be talking about goals and priorities. In addition to that, briefing our legislative delegation. So as you know, we've got, out of our three representatives, assembly member, senator, and congressional member, we have 2 new ones. And even though one of them is from a neighboring city and probably knows a little bit about Selma, it's always good to be able to walk in their offices, talk about the priorities we have that we're seeking funding for, so that when we do follow up with them for letters of support, which we always do, they'll remember that, hey, yes, I remember when Councilmember so-and-so had come and talked to me about these priorities, earlier in the year. So we'll be briefing them, and it'd be great to have council members participate and staff in those meetings as well. And then just to reemphasize, this spring, Proposition 68 and Senate Bill 2 on the housing grants will be continuing their workshops to develop guidelines. My last slide, but I'd be happy to answer questions. Whatever.
Anybody have any questions for Richard? And so we do have 2 council members and our city manager coming to Sacramento in a few weeks for the new council member conference. So that'd be great.
Perfect.
They
I
can-
will continue in contact with Ms. Gallivan and we'll work
Meet
out
with you
logistics
guys.
to be able to we'll prioritize. We won't take up all your time, but we will probably set up a couple meetings with agencies like Parks and Rec and maybe Natural Resources to stop by. We've been meeting with them a lot recently, and they do like to sit there and sort of brainstorm with you on your projects, how to make them better, what you're proposing, how they might be changed to make them more competitive. So they can be very productive meetings, and we'll keep them brief.
Thanks. Oh, go ahead.
In the last couple of minutes, you've been stating that, all these projects that we're looking to create and get some money. You've been stating that possibly the amount of money that we go after is probably larger than what we should because there's agencies that are seeking more money. Do we want to look at that and start viewing what our money, the amount is?
In terms of the amount of the request,
Yes.
I think actually the requests we go after, like I said, with the FEMA grant, we asked for a significant amount, but I think that was based on the number of units.
Population?
It was the 2, so it's a City of Selma as well as North Central Fire Protection District, and based on the number of apparatus that were old or needed replacing, that was basically the bottom line number of what we were requesting. So the number may seem large if we think about it from a city of 25,000.
Sure.
But a lot of other agencies around the country who apply are asking for twice or even 3 times as much.
Sure. And being that I'm new, we will be, or I'm hoping that the city or the mayor will, or do we get a quarterly report of what we're getting for funds?
Yes, in fact, I give, there's something monthly in writing, and thank you for that, because I didn't mention, there's a folder that you have, I just gave you a copy of the presentation. but on the left-hand side is a copy of this month's or November's monthly report. It's a little bit longer. I already heard from one member of the council. It's a little bit longer this month, but some of it, I included some of the election information, just as sort of an FYI. So it tended to be a little bit longer, toward the back end.
Longer's good,
Sometimes.
sometimes. But appreciate that. Anything that can get us a leg up, you know, meeting with these agencies that are distributing these grants. I mean, that could be really helpful.
Yep. No,
in January. Sounds good.
like I said, we're here, you know, anytime you need assistance, or if you're gonna be in Sacramento, let us know, or DC.
Well, you know, I'll tell you what, let us know when, how important it is for certain items that we have to be there. You know, like we're applying for something very valuable for the city of Selma. Let the council know, and so we could either send someone over there to participate, and that way they meet the face who we are.
Mhm.
You know, like you say, sometimes they don't know, they look at names on applicants, but they don't meet the face.
Mhm.
When they see the face and the name, they, okay, I remember that guy.
That's right.
You know, so it's very important, I know that. So if you can do that for us,
Of course.
you know, thank you. You did a great job, so thank you.
Thank you, and you know, we appreciate the understanding. You know, sometimes we don't set the deadlines for when grants are due or when they open up. Things like the stormwater grant, we've been waiting for that for 3 years to open up, and we're meeting with the water board tomorrow, and it's probably going to be later in the spring when that opens up. So we appreciate the opportunity to that. You know, we have a deadline. The agencies then consider the funding. They don't consider it in 24 hours for a decision. Sometimes they take a couple months. Maybe sometimes they take 6 months. So we appreciate allowing time for us to develop good applications and knowing that state agencies, federal agencies don't make decisions quickly sometimes.
When you talk about these stormwater operations, you know, maybe in a city of Selma here, we have Cal Water and our CID operation was, you know,
Mhm.
maybe by collaborating together, maybe we can get a better numbers in the state capital, you know,
I agree.
you know. But
Are there any, any grants that since the water bond failed, is there more pressure on the grants for water now from the folks who counted on that money?
Not necessarily. So it was at least personally, because I think there is a lot of there could have been a lot of projects that were funded from the water bond, and I understand it probably failed on the ballot because, you know, voters went, they saw housing bonds up ahead of the water bond. They knew that back in June they'd voted on Proposition 68, which was a parks and water bond. They may have remembered back 2 years to Proposition 1 that there was a water bond. I think it was accumulation of all of those factors that probably led to its defeat. It was it was almost $9 billion, so it wasn't cheap. But there would have been a lot of good projects that are funded out of it. The existing programs that they're operating, I don't think anyone was banking on Proposition 3 being approved and they were going to wait for funding from it. So I don't think it'll have any impact. I think everyone who would have applied for Proposition 1 funds, for example, are still going to apply. It would have just been nice to maybe had more money in future years coming into those programs.
I know we've been waiting on that stormwater.
But I'm sure in
Grant for
2020,
years
they'll
and
be
years.
back with another request to the voters, so we'll
Good.
see.
And then the 68, it does combine some elements of water and park. So is there any way we could leverage both for the Rockwell Pond Park that the city's looking at?
Yes, in fact, in Proposition 68, Natural Resources Agency will be funding stormwater-related projects. They have not yet developed that program or how those funds will come out, but we've talked to the Net Resources Agency, and that's on their radar that they're going to have to deal with. But yeah, it was a smaller pots of funding, but I think they'll look for synergies between sort of recreational activities and how there's a multi-benefit with something related to stormwater.
Because we have both, you know, it's a recharge basin and it's a park. So it's really what they're looking for.
And all we have now is basically the title of that program. They haven't developed anything further on it yet.
Sounds good. Keep us posted.
Of course,
Have a good, safe trip back tonight. You driving back to Sacramento
I am.
in the fog?
Is it foggy outside?
I hope not.
no, there's no fog. It's cold
Okay,
out
no
there with no
fog.
fog.
It's cold.
Yeah.
We can live with cold. But thank you, Ian.
Take care.
Once
Thank
again,
you very
thanks.
much.
Thank you for coming.
Welcome.
With With that, we'll move on to the consent calendar. All items listed under the consent calendar category are considered routine. Complete consent calendar will be enacted by one motion by roll call vote. For purposes of discussion, any council member may have an item taken off the consent calendar and put back on the regular agenda for a vote. Council can then approve the remainder of the consent calendar. Would anyone like to take any items off the consent calendar tonight? Okay, I will take items E and F off. And with that, I would make a motion to approve items A through D.
Okay, and I'll second that motion.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Robertson,
Aye.
Councilmember Avalos,
Aye.
Councilmember Garrett,
Aye.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Franco.
Aye.
Okay, so item item E, which is consideration of a resolution adopting a revised conflict of interest code and adopting an amended conflict of interest code. Okay, so it's containing revised designated positions and disclosure categories. I just had a couple of brief questions on this. There are two positions in here that I wasn't familiar with, associate planner and deputy city attorney. Are we funding those? Are we planning on adding those? Or, I mean, I know I talked about deepening the organization chart tonight. Is that something that's happening as a result? We're adding, as a city, we're adding these positions before we're actually ready to fill them?
I can speak to the associate planner. We did, that was, I believe, approved in the budget process, and we did do a recruitment. However, at this point, the recruitment pool did not, we're not moving further with that and looking at, we're reassessing what's going on in the planning division and perhaps looking at a different level position.
So conceivably, we could come back and have this again and add like a higher level planner.
Correct. And then as far as the deputy city attorney,
Mr. Mayor, if I may, that's in case we have another associate or an of counsel in my office working on a matter for the city, they would be covered under the deputy city attorney position.
Would they still be an independent contractor?
Correct. It would just be someone from my office.
They would just be someone from your office and they'd be subject to the same conflict of interest code that we see here.
That's correct.
If that wasn't here, how would we handle that?
That individual would file anyway, but this is a proactive way and it's consistent with state law. If we understand that we may have individuals working, we're to include it every 2 years
Okay.
when we do the update.
Thank you for that. And then the transit fleet service coordinator, transit maintenance manager, fleet maintenance supervisor. These are the positions that came to us as a result of the FCRTA maintenance facility. Is that right? Since the city has the contract to staff that facility, these are positions that the city is filling, that the FCRTA is paying us for. Is that correct? Okay. And that's why we added them tonight. I thought we added like 9 new positions. Are there more coming?
Mr. Mayor, so these are only the individuals who would need to file Form 700s. So that means that they're at a level of staffing where they're involved in perhaps contract negotiations, or they're doing something that would involve governmental decisions. Not every city employee is required to file a Form 700. It just depends on the type of work that they're performing.
Got you. So the other ones, they've still been hired. They're just not subject to these reporting requirements, these conflict of interest code requirements. Got it. Okay, thank you. And then the next item would be the check register on item F, I believe, on page 45. Item check number 71777. Cal Water, Isaac, is it usually set, is that bill about right for November? 19,000? Or is that a little up?
Yeah, it is right. It actually dropped from the prior month. The month of September was 27,000. So it's dropped due to the weather change.
Shane, were we using less water?
We're cut back on all irrigation.
How many days a week do we water during the winter in the parks and places like that?
Probably 1 day a week.
1 day a week?
Mhm.
Okay, all right. Thank you. And then item, check number 71787, quarter of the way down the page. Fingerprints, October, November. I don't see an R there. Chief, is this reimbursed, partial reimbursement for the DOJ, the fingerprints?
You get a portion of it and the state gets a portion of it. So, I'd have to look to see which particular fund that comes out of.
It had to pertain to if it was an employee related or not. So if it was
If
an
it's
employee
employee,
related, we wouldn't be
The
reimbursed.
city doesn't get reimbursed.
It's only
but if a-
reimbursed when it's like a user fee, when it's
If
used
it's
as
a
a
third
service.
party, if it's someone that comes in, say has to register for a nonprofit and would pay the city, so then that would be partially reimbursed. Would
Correct.
that actually show up with the DOJ? I mean, there's like a baseline charge from the DOJ, and then there's a charge on top of that the city
They have
levies.
they have
Is that correct?
levels for depending on what type of service you have, so they have a fee schedule on their own. So depending on what kind of service you're
Depends on the
requesting from them will
Level of
determine their.
background check.
That's correct.
Okay, and then if it's reimbursed partially, will we see that amount, the reimbursed amount on the check register? Because that's the amount that the city paid, or will we see the gross amount?
You'd see the gross amount.
It wouldn't be on the check register though, right?
No, because it'd be a refund. Yeah. So on the check register stuff, you see the gross amount.
So
that
it
we're-
would be
we're
like a
paying.
refund from the DOJ,
That's correct.
refund check. Okay, thank you for that. And then a little bit down, 71793, Fresno County Tax Collector Sewer Escape Assessment, first installment. What is that?
Well,
Escape
we don't,
assessment.
we still have to pay our sewer fees. It's billed on the tax roll. So even though we don't pay property tax for our property that we have within the city limits, there is a property outside the city limits we'd have to pay the property tax for.
Which
That was
property
the
is that?
escape. That was,
Is that
I
where
think
the water
12
goes? The water? I mean, where would that be?
Yeah, you're correct. It was one of the basins.
Okay, thank you. And then down at, almost at the bottom of the page, that 71812 Nelson Properties, that last tax sharing agreement, is that the last one?
That's the last payment.
It's the last one? Okay, thank you. Did anyone else have any questions about the check register? With that, I would make a motion to approve items E and F.
Okay,
Is there a second?
a second.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Robertson,
Aye.
Councilmember Avalos,
Aye.
Councilmember Guerra,
Aye.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Franco.
Aye.
Okay, no public hearings, no regular business, so we'll move on to departmental reports. City manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last week, we held the first project review committee meeting that has been held in approximately 3 years. So staff gets together and we provide comments as a complimentary service on projects that have come in and asked for that preliminary service before they formally submit to the planning division. We had a bit of a backlog, and last week when we met, we went through 9 different projects, and those project applicants will soon be receiving comments so that they can continue moving forward on their projects. So we're
Do we
glad to
charge
see.
them for that, city manager?
No, that is a complimentary service, so that when they actually do submit their project application formally, they really have kind of a tighter application, and that way it goes faster, and typically time means, we're
It helps both
cost,
sides.
right,
Saves time by making the
saves time and money on all sides.
submission better. Got it.
So,
Okay.
so we're happy to see that going again. And additionally, in the planning division, there's some other areas that we are looking at addressing, and we are getting estimates on updating our zoning ordinance and our housing element. Both are critical planning documents that we do need to update, so we'll be coming back to you with more information on that in the future. Also, I've been asked about safety concerns at several street intersections, and I want to share that engineering is looking into incident reports for the intersections of Rose and Mitchell Avenue, Rose and Orange Avenue, and Rose and Thompson Avenue. And if incident reports merit it, then they'll move forward to warrant analysis. So those were some questions I've
Rose
been
and
receiving.
Thompson, Rose and Mitchell, and what was the third?
Orange.
Rose and Orange, okay.
And then there've been questions about when the Habit was opening, and thank you, Councilmember Avalos, for giving that update. It is indeed, the timeline is now January for the Habit's opening. They did have some equipment on back order, and that is part of the change in their opening date. So, also, last but not least, I'm very pleased to announce the appointment of Rob Peterson as the City of Selma's new fire chief. Rob has been with the City of Selma for 18 years and has been our interim fire chief for the last 6 months. his experience and his passion for serving this city and its residents is going to make him a great leader of the department. And we look forward to having a more formal ceremony at our next meeting in January for him. And there are others in his department that will also be, I think, being acknowledged as well. A handful, okay, so.
After that fire season.
More cake.
And that's it for my report, thank you.
Very much. City Attorney Sparks?
Nothing to report, Mr. Mayor.
Finance Department, Isaac?
Mayor, just a quick update. Currently, in the Finance Department, we're going to start preparing the ROMS report. As you know, if the Oversight Board and that structure has changed, it's all gone to the county now. The successor will not need to meet to approve that ROMS report. It will go directly to the Oversight Board at the county. And I'll make sure that I attend that meeting so that we can get a smooth process. Also, you will be seeing some changes in the financials coming up for the fiscal year that just passed. GASB 75 has been implemented, which affects our OPEB and how that liability is booked on the financial statements. But I'll give you a more depth analysis on that when we have our financial presentation. That's all for now.
Is this the first year those gas
first
bills
year.
are hitting?
For 75, yes. I mean, 68 started this trend with the pension, but 75's now taking the OPEB to the same level of presentation.
And then in terms of the RDA, are we getting to the point where Selma is going to formally dissolve its RDA? We're going to be in a position to go to the regional RDA for that?
Mr. Mayor, because of the pending litigation, we're not able to dissolve the agency.
All right, we'll move on with that to our Parks and Rec. City Commissioner? Mike?
I believe you received your weekly reader last week. I did want to just emphasize from the Public Affairs Townsend report that the money we're spending on Salzar and Schaefer is the HRPP grant, the Housing Related Parks Program. So we have received $226,000 that we have through this next May to expend. But we are looking at round 2 once it opens up. This was the first year City of Selma qualified based on the rental houses near Salzar Center. That put us enough bedrooms. There's a formula that finally hit us to be able to apply for it.
Are we looking at the transit-oriented development, the TOD, which just opened up to the smaller cities? Are we looking to apply for that? Isn't that the next month or so? There's about 850,000 in that. I think the only qualifiers, you'd have to be near a bus stop or something.
Sure, and I haven't seen the project specifics of what we would be applying for, but anytime you can plan around the transit, either regional monies or state monies, they love to see you do that development because the legislature is soon going to require it around certain transit stops.
It'd be interesting to know a little more about how that money can be applied, just because it's been Fresno and Clovis for so many years, and now it's opening up to the smaller cities. Kingsburg even got a grant last year.
Yeah.
You know, so it's definitely open for us, and I see Selma doing some infill and doing some things where it looks like it's rewarding high density type of housing, and there's some of that stuff coming around. So.
I'll speak directly with staff about some of the project that we may be able to apply for that funding for and provide a summary.
Sounds good. Thank you. Mike, was that it? Do you have anything else? Okay, thank you. Police, Chief Carter?
Mayor, members of the council, in addition to the report that you find on page 48 of your package, I wanted to inform you that our department was involved in a multi-agency operation last week that was put together by the United States Attorney's Office, the U.S. Marshals Service, the Fresno County Magic Unit, the Fresno, Clovis, Reedley, Sanger, Selma Police Departments. The U.S. Attorney referred to it as Operation Washout. I don't know why they picked that name, but anyway, it was a multi-agency operation that throughout the whole county, focusing on felons that were wanted within our jurisdictions. In addition to the 2 kidnapping suspects that you're aware of that we took into custody, we also captured 5 other folks here in Selma. I think that information is available somewhere. There are the folks that we took into custody and their various charges. The one blacked out face represents a juvenile that we took into custody for possession of a loaded weapon, which I think is also attached a little bit further down. There it is. So the federal government and the U.S. Marshals and the U.S. Attorney are planning more operations along these lines, and we intend to participate whenever they do. Collaboration for departments of our size is an essential, especially when the feds are willing to provide us the resources we need. So this operation worked really well. Countywide, the operation netted over 103 arrests during the 5-day period that we ran the operation, and all of those individuals were taken into custody by members of the task force, including members from our department. So that's it.
Thank you. Chief Peterson?
I'd just like to take a quick minute. I'd like to thank the city manager for the introduction and the opportunity, and I'm very excited and honored to be appointed as the fire chief, and look forward to the future. That being said, over the weekend we had an event with the City College where we hosted their culminating event. We set up several evolutions that allowed them to kind of show off the skills, all the skills that they learned. They're about to graduate at the end of the week. They were able to invite family and friends out to watch. And they actually had a Defense Department fire chief who came up from Southern California and had interviewed 6 of the candidates the day before. And she wanted to come out and see how they performed. And after they did so, she hired 6 of them right on the spot. So that was very exciting for them. And then we're actually interviewing 7 later on in the week for a work experience program that's sponsored by the City College. So we're looking forward to, hopefully bringing probably 3 of them on, 1 on each of our shifts, and they'll be able to come in and get the experience they need to finalize their certifications.
Does the city actually pay for that, or
No,
does the college
no,
reimburse
it's
it?
all through the City College.
Okay.
And we did bring on a new hire, a new firefighter paramedic. He's in his 3rd week. And we will be offering, making a conditional offer to another firefighter this week that will take us to full staff. A quick update on the station remodel. We're ready to move forward. We have a meeting this week with the design team. They have received the preliminary cost estimate, have evaluated it, and have some options available for us this week that we can look at and then bring to you in the coming months.
Has that bidding process, do we know when the bid's gonna go out, or open?
We're not to that point yet. This is just the initial cost estimate. We're comparing that with the preliminary budget proposal that you saw, and we'll evaluate how close they are and then what kind of options we have moving forward.
Is the project manager staying pretty close on this and helping out with the bids? I know Vanier helped with the value engineering, but is the project manager assisting with getting the qualified contractors together?
He has been involved. His part in it has been minimal at this point, just because we're mostly in the design phase. He has been involved in some of the testing aspects, the preliminary testing that had to be done to the building as it sits now. And as we move forward, I'm sure that involvement will increase.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Shane, Public Works?
Public Works, we'll continue to move forward with the tree pruning downtown, as you all can see, I'm sure.
See you every day.
Looks a little different. Schaefer Park, Salazar Center basketball court construction is complete, and I'll be getting together with Mike Kirshner in the next couple of weeks. We'll be having a ribbon cutting and a small ceremony. And that's all I have for Public Works.
That's good. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Okay, and with that, all of us have spoken tonight. Does anyone want to say anything more in council reports?
I have one quick thing.
Okay. Would ever people like to speak? Okay, well, let's just do it.
Let's do it regular.
We could start with Councilmember Trujillo.
Go ahead.
Do you want to go? Did you have,
I'll
do you have
start.
remarks, Councilmember?
Yep, remarks?
Not a remark. Being a freshman council member, I don't know how the protocol is, but I'd like to ask, what is the protocol for me to put something or would like to request for a agenda item?
You can do it here and
Oh,
now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to put an agenda item and for the city council to start discussions to work on creating a workshop to update our general plan, to discuss amending our general plan, to take into consideration the past 4 or 5 years economic development, the inflation, and start the discussion of updating our general plan to adhere to the streets, sewer, future development. Our sphere of influence needs to be recognized in our general plan. It's not, I reviewed it. I'd love to have our city council discuss it for the future. This is something that I think that is actually a good start for us as a city council. It's something that the city of Selma needs, and I'd like to put on the agenda so we can at least discuss it.
Okay.
If it's possible.
Put that on there. So we'll have a meeting, we'll talk about goals for the next year, and we can talk about the
It kinda ties
general
in
plan
with-
as well.
it kinda ties it
It does,
together.
it kinda goes
Okay.
together. Okay, and then we'll be, City Attorney Sparks Ross, we'll be talking about the actual dividing of the city for the districts and districting. Will that be at the next meeting or the meeting after?
Yes, it'll
that?
be at the meeting in January.
Okay.
If we have too full of an agenda, I don't know if the council would wish to move it to the next meeting, but that's the will of the council.
Probably play it by ear, so
Okay.
the agenda topics.
Mr. Mayor, just to confirm, though, we're gonna do the general plan discussion as part of the goal-setting workshop
I don't think
that
it should-
was
well-
requested.
But,
I just wanna make sure I have cleared.
Go ahead.
I purposely think that, I mean, basically, I think that the goal setting is, it's awesome, I believe into it. But I don't think the goals should be setting with the planning, with the general plan, because the general plan, I mean, our goals are gonna be set into our general plan, but our general plan in itself to update it and make the amendment would be different, wouldn't it?
I think what we could do is we could have that as part of the overall goal discussion, and then how we prioritize, and it doesn't mean that we wouldn't still want to maybe come back with a separate item.
So that's
Is
a pretty
that-
broad thing, going into
Yeah.
the general plan. Maybe
Yeah.
we wanna have a general discussion and maybe narrow it down
And
to get
evaluate
something
it.
more specific
Evaluate it.
targets.
start the discussion.
Yeah, start the
what
discussion
I wanted.
and hone it down until we get something specific. Would that
Yeah.
work for you?
That'd work.
Okay.
Okay,
Councilmember Avalos?
thank you. Okay, on the positive note, as we move forward here, I attended the tree lighting, and thanks to Bob and getting that switch open for me, thank you very much. I was a little scared I might get shocked, but it was okay. Thanks to the Public Works putting the lights up and making it safe for me. Thank you very much, Shane. Thank you. I wasn't attacked by a squirrel, so I'm okay. So we moved on that one, and everything went. The rain stopped. Came out okay. It was cold, but it was good. And also, I attended this Sunday. I attended the Indian church to give Sarah and T.D. Cox a blessing from the community church, Indian church, and Scott was there, and his wife was there, and so a lot of people were there. So it was a good event. And at the same time, that particular day, I also attended the church down here on Mill Street, Church of God, Pastor Gene Smith, and I congratulated him, and I gave him an award for being in the community 42 years in our community as a pastor in the city of Selma, believe it or not. I was going to bring him to city council, but we had a lot of stuff going today, so I felt it was better appropriate in front of his congregation, and I did it, and he was very appreciative, and he was shocked. One thing, 42 years, time goes by fast, and being a minister of our community, and which is good. Spiritual leaders are very well needed in our community. They're a key component, and getting people get them out of their depression and all that anxiety and all that. They need a spiritual guide and help people in their life and move on in a good way. And we need those people in our communities. I don't care what denomination you belong to; they're well needed. And also we had a, you know, a little discussion with, I had a little discussion with, this week with Cal Water and kind of, you know, give me insight education on Cal Water. Yeah, give me in this office, it interests me how it works and everything. It's good. Open dialogue. It's very important for our city officials to understand what Cal Water is at, and also with had a meeting with also with CID education. You know, learning about the water structure, bringing water in the valley, and because it's we talked about the grants. Stormwater deals, you know, operations, you know, maybe discussion with those parties, Cal Water and CLD, and maybe develop a plan to, when we go to Sacramento, develop these plans for grants to get the stormwater operations in play. You know, it's a dialogue, education for the council as far as all of us, you know. We need to learn, we gotta learn from each other, you know, it's in life, that's what it is, a learning process, and no one has all the answers, but by working together, we'll get the answers, you know. And even the community might have a solution out there. A lot of times, good people out there have ideas that actually come up with good ideas, and they work. And council looks at these people, and I thank them. And that's why I see people in the audience, they have a lot of good ideas out there. I don't mind when they come forward and address the council on issues that are concerns to them. I'm okay with that. It's a positive thing for the community to learn things like that. And for us, it's a learning process up here in the council. Say, hey, you know what? We haven't looked at it. Maybe let's look at it a little more, you know? So in a good sense, City of Selma is moving forward in the right direction. New leadership, Scott Robinson, I know Scott, he'll move the city very well. Scott, and Sarah and John, two new council people. It's a learning process for both you guys, but you know what? I have confidence in both you guys, and Franco is all the veteran now. He's a veteran now, no longer a young person. I'm very confident we're going to move forward in the right direction. The City of Selma, you're going to see some economic growth grow very fast, and I'm very pleased how we're going. I thank the people of the residents of Selma, what they wanted, and we're going to move in that direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilperson Guerra?
Okay, last Saturday I attended a gala for United Health Centers, which was a very nice event. On Friday, I attended a town hall meeting for Governor Gavin Newsom, which was very interesting. And on Sunday, I did attend the temple the Sikhs temple that was very nice, and also TJ Cox was there, so they did give us a blessing. And it was a beautiful ceremony, so that was it for me.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
I just want to once again thank the chamber for the Christmas parade. It was the third year, right, Bob? Third year. It was the third year, and each year it's getting bigger and better. So, good job there. I also want to point out that this weekend I was able to stop by the Selma High School, and the police department is it called Reality Tour? A drug prevention unit. They had about 150 kids in that program. Very well done, Chief. And then one other question, probably Kirshner, the rock, the statue at Lincoln Park, that's up at the end of this year. So are we having plans to relocate that to its proper owner?
It'll come before you January for your council's decision to.
Okay,
accept the
all right.
donation, move it or keep it there.
Okay, all right. And once again, congratulations, Fire Chief. And then that's it.
Thank you. So I attended the solar plant ribbon cutting at SKF put on by the chamber. Thank you. I attended the ribbon cutting at Bomb Tacos last week, the Christmas parade, the event at the Gurdwara at the Sikh temple this weekend, where the Mayor Avalos then and Councilperson Guerra were, and newly elected Congressman-elect, I should say, TJ Cox was there for a blessing. I followed up with the Executive Director of the Council of Governments regarding the status of the amendment process of the Regional Transportation Plan. I don't know if it was a while back. We had a June meeting when we had kind of a roundtable with various developers and agency people about the development of Rockwell Pond and how to get the road in there and to develop it and the conceptual plan. And I believe you were there. And at that time, we were told by the Caltrans and we were told by Tony Boren of Council of Governments that in order to get the Dinuba overpass back in the Measure C rotation, which is a long process, we would have to do an amendment to the regional transportation plan. So that was gonna go on in December. I was at the COG meeting. I said, we're gonna do an amendment. No, we can't do that. It's gonna be a little bit involved. So now it's gonna be an amendment to the regional transportation plan in 2019. So that's moving forward, and that is a direct response to one of the developers, Cliff Titelian, who's championing Dinuba Road overpass for that area because he's working on a mall across from where the recharge basin is and where the new green space for the city would go at Rockwell Pond. So just wanted you to stay tuned on that, let everybody know that's, moving forward at this point. We'll keep you updated. I noticed, Shane, there are a couple pair of shoes hanging at C Street and Arantz. They just look, Yeah, Arantz. 2 pairs. It's gone from 1 to 2. Thought maybe they'd fall off or something in the wind last week, but they didn't. Thank you, appreciate that. I also want to say congratulations to the healthcare district members. They're having their first meeting after their election, their reorganization tomorrow night at the senior center, starting at 6 p.m. I just got a report today that workers' comp rates in California will be down again. They're decreasing. They have decreased 42% since January 2015, which is a good thing for the city. Lowers our operating costs. It's a really good thing when workers' comp rates go down, and that means there are fewer claims as well. Finally, want to recognize the manager for TJ Cox, Gilbert Felix. Thank you for coming out tonight. Please give the Congressman-elect our greetings and congratulations, and wish you all the best, and am very excited that the Congressman is going to be opening an office in Selma. So be our first congressional office in Selma. So
Hopefully.
we hope that happens.
He already put it on the record yesterday, so now I gotta make it happen.
Sounds good.
We're
Now
gonna
you gotta
we're gonna hold
follow
them to it. I got it in video right now.
And with that, we'll call for oral communications during public comments. If you wish to address the city council under Government Code Section 549-543A.
Mr. Mayor, I
Pardon?
have a question real quick. I'm a freshman at this. I understand you guys were speaking on behalf of Rockwell Park and the developer. Being that I'm a freshman council member, I'd like to know what the protocol is when a elected official in our city goes and speaks to the individual, and how do we get the information so when we're out in public, if there is being a discussion as to the development, do we get privy to that, or did just individuals, or what is it? What's the protocol for the city? Because I understand that you guys had meetings with them, and I'd like to know do we get clarification so when public asks us, we're knowledge of that?
You mean Rockwell Pond?
Yes.
Right.
You named the developer, and I've never heard of that, so I'd like to know what the protocol is, and if people are having meetings, will we be privy to those meetings or that information that goes through?
Yeah, there was a public meeting in June about Rockwell Pond and Dinuba
And
overpass.
that will be relayed
It
to
was
us?
it was a workshop
Okay.
publicly noticed. We had all the council members there except one.
Okay, I'm just wanna know.
Maybe our city attorney could assist in this.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you for that clarification, and that's what I was going to point out, was that was during an open and public meeting, the discussion that the mayor was referring to. In the event that a council member has discussions with a developer regarding any sort of development project, in the event that that project comes back before the city council,
Disclose.
those discussions will need to be disclosed during the public hearing as part of the administrative record. Our advice, consistent to council members and to staff, is that council members should not be involved in meetings with staff, as those are separate due process development projects that need to be brought to the council without their input prior to coming forward to the legislative body.
Okay, with that, we'll go to oral communications during public, I'll just start over. During public comments, if you wish to address the city council Under Government Code Section 549543A, you may only address the city council concerning any item that has been described in the notice for the special meeting. Members of the public, would you please limit your remarks to 3 minutes? Would anyone like to come forward?
Good evening. Jason Segan, I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the Chriscom Company. We have the privilege of representing you guys in Sacramento and in Washington, D.C. I just wanted to offer my congratulations to the new council members. We look forward to working with you. You've got a great group of veteran council members up there that are going to show you the way. And congratulations, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. And shameless plug, we are co-hosting the Chambers Mixer this Wednesday here in the Chambers with Bloomies, and wanted to invite everybody to come and attend. And if you don't, have a happy holidays, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for the
Thank you.
invitation.
Bob Allen, Executive Director of the Selma Chamber. Congratulations to Sarah and John for joining the council. I think we have a good year before us. And of course, I have to say congratulations to Rob. But you know, the reason why he got that appointment permanently was because he brought Santa to Selma. So couldn't turn that down. I'm going to be redundant because I was here to invite you to our last mixer of the year this Wednesday right here in City Hall. Bloomies and Chriscom Company will be co-hosting our mixer, so we'd like to invite all of you to come and enjoy and begin the holiday seasons together because it just gets busier from now. So again, we'd love to have all of you, and those of you in the audience, we'd love to have you here too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, what time would that be, Bob?
5 o'clock.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we will adjourn to closed session. Thanks to everybody. And happy holidays if we don't see you when we come back from closed session.